Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wayfarer Podcast, Season 2, Episode 6. And today with me, we have...
Jonathan.
Katya.
Zach. Riley.
And I'm Jared Thomas. Guys, welcome to 2025. It's insane. New Year's is here.
It's wild.
Crazy.
To think we started the podcast 2023, right?
Yeah.
That's
true. Isn't that kind of crazy?
That's crazy.
I don't know.
Year number
Time
2.
goes by
Season number
super
2, year
fast.
number 2.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel good about 2025? It's like a weird number.
And I guess this is
25.
the third year, actually. I just realized that.
Mhm.
2023, 2024, 2025. We're in year 3.
It's good math, right?
We're entering in. I'm excited for 2025. I'm glad to be out of 2024. 2024 was awesome. Amazing things happened. It was really, really great year, but it was like an uphill pedal too. A lot
Yeah.
for a lot of people. And like how many hurricanes? 13 hurricanes or 42 hurricanes? This is a lot.
I think we're done with the hurricanes.
Well, they come
This
back.
They'll be back.
Don't be bad.
They're always
It's the
back.
thing. Ugh.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the best year yet.
I'm
Good.
excited.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's that hope come from?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
The Lord?
yeah. God willing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Anybody have like big plans for 2025 or any New Year's resolutions that they're like fired up about?
Mm-mm-mm.
I kind of want to get back. Like, every year my resolution is to run like a half marathon, and it never happens. But we're going to put that one back up there.
Do you want to
Hopefully it
run in a
happens.
particular race, like at a location? Like people do the Disney run or the Gasparilla run. Is there a run that you want to do?
I think the Gasparilla one, just because I've lived in Tampa my whole life, and I always see people like posting it on Instagram, like after they're done, and I'm like, shoot.
So that's in
I want that
6
to be me.
weeks. You got to start training.
I
You
know.
missed
Do you think it's
sign-up
possible?
period,
Do you think I
I
could do it?
I
Nah.
think so.
I
Maybe
think
it's gonna
I
happen
think
this year.
you had to sign up already.
Oh,
I don't think
never
you can
mind.
sign up this late. I could be wrong. Completely could be wrong.
Resolution's already over,
Depends.
guys.
I
what-
tried.
Is there a
Yeah.
second one? Was there
20
like a runner-up?
2026 is my year.
That's right.
It's always
okay.
next year, Katya.
Maybe.
Do you do
We'll see.
resolutions? Do you have one?
Yeah, I feel like I like more focus on like habits to change than like giant goals because I feel like
That's deep.
that's where I like struggle more. It's very easy for me. I could come up with 30 things I want to achieve, but like where I
That's fair.
struggle is like the like action just to like get there for that. So try to like that's where I think it's like loosey based because it's like obviously stand up is like huge, but being like I want to be a Netflix special, it's like well that's not really helpful
Yeah.
as a resolution. So being like open mic and writing kind of thing.
Little by little. I like it. Do you do resolutions?
Not usually specifically, but I do have goals. I guess in 2025, I'm going to finish reading the Bible end to end. That'll be good. About
That's
a third of the way
awesome.
through. And then hopefully I will figure out on my business how to make money so I don't have to go find a job.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That's good.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I feel that is very likely for you.
Thank
I
you.
don't
hope
know.
So.
You're very business savvy.
Let's see.
Always have a way to figure it out. So, not an unrealistic goal.
That's good. Good to hear.
Yeah.
You'll get your Netflix special too, Jared.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was real quiet during
One
my
day.
goals.
It's just a long-term goal. We have short-term goals and long-term goals.
Yeah, she didn't say a word during mine because I want to be funny, and she's like, yeah, all right, buddy."
I mean, we were talking about a marathon, and we said it's too late this year. Better luck next year already.
Yeah.
You said that. I said,
You said there's always 2026.
Oh, I said she could do it in 6
My goals
weeks.
were turned down immediately, so don't dish what you can't take, huh? Gosh.
I was a supporter. Run the tape. Zach, what are your goals? Any of them?
I think my goal is I just want to enjoy. I heard somebody say the other day that give yourself permission to enjoy the things that God has done. And I think at this point, looking at 2024, there was so many different things, family life, V3's life, even just as a team that were really, really sweet. And it moved really fast. 2024 went really, really fast. So I actually want to like go slow in 25 and not forget to just enjoy the goodness that has happened. And that may sound easy, but it's tough when I'm naturally inclined to like future thinking. And so it's hard for me to just sit and enjoy something good once it's happened. As soon as something good has happened, I'm like, great, what's next?
Yeah.
Right?
We don't
So
talk about
true.
V3 a lot on here, but V3 had a pretty big 2024. I mean,
was
there's a lot of
unreal.
mountain peaks.
Massive.
It was big. And just still in view is the art unveiling that we kind of ended the year. And that was a huge hope and prayer that we would be able to do the symphony project, come out of that, see that accomplished and done well, and then end the year right here in Tampa with like a great group of friends and family, just celebrating the goodness of God with this incredible painting. And it all came together. Oxford Exchange was amazing to us and hosted that event, and it was beautiful. I think one of my favorite moments from 2024 was singing Joy to the World in Oxford, because I've worked there, I've written there, I've done, so many meetings happen there, and to be in that space after hours at night, all decorated at Christmas, and just hear voices singing Joy to the World, it was pretty great.
Yeah, you write in your book about being at Oxford and there being like something missing, but it was there right then.
It was a pretty full circle moment. You're going to make me cry, because that happened that night. I was just like, oh my goodness, God, only you could like full circle put us here. It was pretty awesome.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was super cool. Fun. Yeah, 24 was awesome for V3.
Yeah, it's funny. I told Josh, who did that print, I was like, 12 months ago, did you imagine you'd be singing Christmas carols in Tampa? He was just like, great. No idea. It wasn't even on the radar. So.
I think the people, too. I think that's one of the things, never alone for this podcast, but that's just V3 culture. Like, everybody was there. It was so fun not everybody was able to make it, but the people who were in the room, it was just there's so many amazing friendships and relationships, and we're very, very blessed. We're blessed in Tampa. So it's good.
Yeah, good. 2025 will be even better.
Let's go.
Excited for it. But today, getting into it and this journey that we've been on, going through the bumps and the bruises of the Wayfarer journey. We've talked about a lot of different ones, and today we're talking about pride, a little sneaky one that we don't even really think about that much. Old pride.
Sneaky. Say more about that.
Sneaky.
Subtle. It's a subtle one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think there's some that are in like doubt, fear. They feel like mountains, that are looming out there. And that's one of my favorite things about this whole conversation over season 2. One of the most wonderful things, I think, has just been sitting around talking about the reality that these things will be with us on the journey. And the recovering that older way of thinking about our Christian life is that, yep, we are on a journey. The vision is Jesus. We're following him. That journey takes place over the long course of our life. And along the way, we're going to deal with doubt and fear and temptation. Those things they're there. Pride is one that is more subtle. I think you said it well. I'll let you open up a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson says that pride is a deception. And like you're not seeing reality for what it is. And I think included in that is the fact that you're prideful. So I think that you're also blind and deceived about that. So pride is something for me that I struggle with on a daily basis, and I have to constantly check myself. And because I've prayed for humility, and like I feel like I'm able to act out humility, but it's not always true. And I'd say most of the time it's not. Like at the end of the day, if I really look back at my intentions, there's that intention where I am putting myself at the center or trying to be better or comparing. And it just works its way. Pride works its way into so many of my like desires and actions. Like when I make a decision and choose to say something or act something out, like so often a piece of that is rooted in pride, just on a daily basis, especially when interacting with people, and happens a lot at work, especially where you're in situations where there's like a hierarchy, and certainly don't like being wrong.
Yeah, I struggle with that a ton. The need to be like right in like interactions, especially, I mean, in personal and, whether it's a roommate drama with my favorite Taylor Zeisloft, love you, buddy, or, my manager or people at work, I think that like just bubbles up inside in such a, indignant way of how dare you think that I'm wrong or I did something bad. Or even if I did, it's like, how dare you call me out on it,
Right.
So true.
Give that description again. I think that was really good. The definition from Jordan Peterson on it.
He says it's a deception. You're not seeing reality for what it is.
Not seeing reality for what it is. I think super, super helpful. So that's a great, because sometimes we can think, oh, it's thinking really highly of myself. That's pride. And I think that can be a part of it for sure. But I like this better, that it's a deception, because the other can be in there too, of like overly thinking of myself lowly. And yet I'm the center point and the reference point. I think that's where I like that Jordan Peterson definition of it's a deception. You're not seeing reality rightly. Well, why? I think the answer to the why is because you've become, or I've become, the reference point, right? We're in the center and we are making the evaluations from our vantage point. And that's where the deception comes in. We've lost that North Star. We've lost that vision that is the true plumb line, right? As soon as that goes away, then you fall into making estimations about what is real based on my understanding. And that's finite, limited, corrupted, right? Turned in on itself. So I think that's a really helpful thing to say. Pride is if we find ourselves at the center and making those evaluations, high or low, right? To say more about Tim Keller's perspective, because he unpacks this a bit in the book that you made a book recommendation. It's been a while. I've been trying to.
Yeah, the freedom of self-forgetfulness. Yeah, he talked a lot about just the like thinking lowly of yourself or thinking highly of yourself is like pretty much the same thing. It's like pride is in both of those thoughts, and it happens when you're at the center of what you're trying to really, judge yourself off of. And going off of that, kind of C.S. Lewis talked about this, is that pride is so much of a comparison, competitive in nature, which is funny because I'm super competitive at video games. So like I saw that and I was like, competitive. It's like how many of us, we won't say we're prideful, but we'll say we're very competitive.
Yeah.
Which
you competitive, my favorite is the sprint in Brno. It was unreal. It was fantastic. You had to be there.
Sorry.
Yeah, Lewis,
Jerome Milner lost a sprint up a hill. He's talking a lot of junk, but
look at this. Look at this.
Prague.
C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. Was it Prague?
Yep.
Okay. That's right. Pride is spiritual cancer. Pride is spiritual cancer. It eats up the very possibility of love or contentment or even common sense. I got to read that again. That's C.S. Lewis from Mere Christianity. Pride is spiritual cancer. It eats up the very possibility of love or contentment or even common sense. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about like our moment and how we've lost common sense. Like it seems like common sense is just out the window and things are just deceptively not real. And then there's no contentment. It's just like an insatiable desire for more whatever. And then even eating up the possibility of love. Go, what could be at the root of all that? And Lewis's estimation is the cancer at the root of that is a pridefulness that's just eating away these things.
I feel that right now because I've like struggling with feeling like I deserve a new car. Like I want a new car and I can't afford to I want to buy like the 2025 Toyota 4Runner hybrid, which is like $54,000, which don't have on me right now or in my bank. So but it's like I get this feeling of like, well, I feel like I deserve to be able to buy that. And the car company's like, we can do it. You can take out 3 mortgages to afford it. But it's like, obviously that's not smart. But it's funny, that feeling that I've had as I've like shopped for it and built mine of like, I deserve this. And it's like, well, no, you don't, Jared. Like, that's not how that works.
That's go.
The contentment piece, that one is tough. And part of the problem is you look around and everyone around you has pride and it seems to be working for them. Like it's got them this and that. And you're like, well, if I am not putting myself at the center, then I'm going to get behind them. And then like my life is going to be terrible. But if you think about life without love, contentment, and common sense, I mean, that's a lot worse.
Yeah. I mean, that just catapults you into the Psalms with David lamenting, like the wicked prosper, the proud seem to be doing fine, and here I am, right? Like, what good is it to be driving an old car and content with that? You shouldn't be content with that, right? Like, especially in our economy, it's like, man, look to the left or the right, they're doing better than you, and we measure ourselves of like, hey, I'm I'm X age or stage in life, so I deserve to have, and as soon as I go down that road, of course I'm not content. But it's subtle. It slips in there in so many ways. And I think, again, that loss of a reference point, because the solve for pride, this spiritual cancer, it's like, well, how do you get out of that, right? Because if I'm in it, I do deserve it. I've worked really hard, right? If I stay in that, I will just continue to either circle around or spiral down. And the only way to get out of it is to get a right view of reality. Like, what is the proper view of what is real? And I can only do that if I reference off of a true north. And that's why we love Colossians, like that center point, the supremacy of Christ. Everything is held together by him, for him. All things were made by him and for him. That reference point back to say there is an objective standard of true and good and beautiful, and that ultimate is God, not any other material reference point. So I have to recalibrate there in order to get a proper view of what's real, right? Yeah. Not easy to do, though, especially when you're caught up in it. Have you guys ever felt, or Katya ever felt that spiral taking place where you've started to go down that road and go, I deserve it? And then it goes a little, what's next after that? I deserve it. And have you ever found yourself like not being able to get out of that reference point and you're spiraling a bit?
Yeah. I mean, just in the reference of how we're talking about pride tonight, I'd never heard about it like that. In the sense of like, it can both be a boastful thing, but it could also be a debilitating thing where we're thinking very lowly of ourselves. Yeah. So in the sense of like, I can think of multiple things. But the first one that comes to mind is like with work, if I don't meet a certain expectation, I immediately start like just taking myself down because I'm not meeting that ideal version of myself, instead of looking at like, this is for the greater glory of God. Like, this isn't just for me and for my own sake of pride. And so in that situation, I mean, we just got done with 2024, and in those last couple of weeks, I definitely was dealing with like a lot of like, we didn't meet this quota, like we didn't meet this thing, and it's really hard, and there can be a lot of anxiety in that. That's just work, but then to bring it to relationships, like in our 20s, or if you're in college, like you're just going in and out of a lot of stuff, and I can only think about the amount of times I drive home and just in such frustration thinking like, I deserve this kind of relationship because I do X, Y, and Z. And I mean, overall, just debilitating whenever I'm the reference point. But I think what we're talking about tonight, if I were to in the past done the idea of like, okay, wait, let me think about this in terms of God viewing me and not just me viewing myself, like God would he would be proud of me no matter what I bring to the table. And so, yeah, I'd say that's my experience with pride.
I love that you said that. There's literally a definition around pride that says the disordered desire. So a disordered desire for excellence or perfection, pride. Mm-hmm. Disordered desire for excellence or perfection. So I get locked in on that result, and that disorder. Excellence isn't bad. Pursuing excellence for the glory of God, that's a great thing. I will do my best, right? But that disordered version is it is up to me, depends on me, and is referenced by my power to be the best at this. And that's kind of those subcategories of, I want to be better than other people. I want to be in control of situations. I want to have the last word in things or be right. The root, that's all that same little root. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how pride, kind of in a similar way of like the pursuit of excellence, I find it like pride can make me not take the baby steps that like I can feel myself above, like doing like learning piano right now, like learning Mary Had a Little Lamb. Like I'm like, I don't want to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb. Like I want to be playing like the dope song, like the sick songs, and like doing insane stuff on the piano. But just the simple little stuff that you have to do to like progress in it. And I see that in all my life, like in stand up. Like I think it can be hard to go to some, if you don't feel like an open mic is great, it's like it can be hard to want to go to that one because you're like, the audience isn't great, and it's like I deserve better. I deserve to be in front of 50 people, not just 5, kind of thing. So it's funny how like thinking like so highly of yourself, like and it kind of goes back to what you're saying, like not seeing yourself rightly, like it's a deception to not understand that it's like it is good to like grow and take those baby steps.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever been at like the state fair or a carnival where there's the odd shaped mirrors and you find yourself in the house of mirrors? I'm just thinking about the wayfaring journey and the dangers, like these little rabbit trails of doubt or fear or temptation, whatever it is. And then you come around the corner and then there's this little trail that leads into this ever shifting house of mirrors that's a deception and a false view of reality. And sometimes I'm way bigger than I'm supposed to be, and sometimes I'm way smaller than I'm supposed to be. And then everything around me is out of proportion. I was just thinking about that and imagining like social media and how much time we're spending in this kind of virtual hall of mirrors, referencing off of people's curated versions of their lives or their forerunners or whatever it is. It's very hard to have a true reference point.
Yeah, Thomas West, pastor out of Nashville, First Baptist, great guy, shout out. He has in his Instagram bio, he goes, "These are just highlights." It's something like that. It's like these are the highlights, and I think that's just like a really profound thing. That's like everybody's curating that, and that's okay. It's like, but don't miss that for like the reality of life.
Yeah, it's good.
I feel like pride interferes a lot with relationships and missing the time spent with people. If you're even with family and just the interactions, if you're not like, I'll find myself, I would say I'm more introverted than extroverted. A lot of times that is due to a prideful perspective of, like getting lost in thinking maybe what people are thinking about me or how I need to come across, rather than like genuinely seeking people's good. Like we say, love is seeking the other's highest good, and that I think is the solve, the humility, the humble position. Like Lewis says, pride is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So that's a very just practical thing. Like choose what you think about. You can sit and think about yourself, or look at the people around you and think about them. And it works like that. Like you can't do both at the same time. And I also found if I found myself like wanting to be better than someone, I would take the time and I would pray for their success. And that was like almost like hard to get out, to ask God to
bless
give
them.
Yeah, but it works. It definitely helps.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that definition of love in, because I just looked down at that, and pride is spiritual cancer. It eats up the very possibility of love. And that can just take us into this, again, deceptive realm. It's like, well, what is love? Well, pride eats up the possibility that I'll seek your highest good because I want to be better first, stronger, more in control, whatever it is, right? And so great catch that if love, which is the final apologetic, we're made to mature in our love, to look more like him, which seeks the other's highest good, acts on the other's highest good. Pride is a direct cancer against that, right? So how do we, what's if humility's the solve, right? So if pride is the spiritual cancer, and we go, okay, you got to remove that. Pride is something to watch for. And then but you can't just remove that. You have to replace that. Humility is the virtue that counters that vice, right? So it's the cultivation of virtue and the virtue of humility. And humility, to use Peterson's right on, that the humility definition is thinking of yourself in right relation to truth, what is real, right? Which includes God. So if the deception of pride is a wrong view of yourself, not according to reality, humility is a right estimation of yourself in view of what is true, which has to include God's view.
Yeah, and I think this is where it can get hard, because you're like, all right, well, I don't want to be prideful. And I'm so tempted to like, all right, let me pull up my bootstraps and let me go and not be prideful and be
win the humility
be humble.
competition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I'm gonna be the most humble guy on the planet, and like the pursuit of that, it's like you're still doing the same thing. You're still like by your own efforts. I'm still in the center of it, trying to, make myself humble, which doesn't work. You're still thinking of yourself constantly.
Yeah, and then on the other side of it, it's like, okay, well, I don't, like, for me, like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be prideful and pursue that. So then I start to eat tear myself down, and it's like that's not rightly ordered either. Like we just talked about how like that is pridefulness too, like putting yourself down, and like you're still putting yourself in the center instead of God, and that's not a humility response.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like, oh, go. I just
No,
stepped
it's
right
okay.
onto I was
Jared,
writing.
you go.
No, you got it.
No.
Okay.
No,
Well,
I like that, the attitude part, right? Because if we're going to, okay, if the vice is pride, the virtue cultivation is how we kind of counter that or cultivate the virtue of humility. That's the right posture. But that can go wrong if our attitude is that, I'm going to be the best at humility. I think that's why Philippians have the same attitude as Christ, right? Who took on the nature of a servant. There's something in that is really helpful, that is an encouragement towards what humility is, which humility, again, is not thinking wrongly of yourself in this weird self-deprecating I'm less than, but thinking rightly, but not having yourself at the center. So have the same attitude as Christ. And what was his attitude? He was loving others, willing the good of the others. And what was his aim? To the glory of his Father, right? Like he was seeking your good for something beyond you, right? You were not even the ultimate aim of that. He was saying, I'm seeking your highest good because it brings glory to God. And I think that sets us free. Man, think about that, right? It's shattering that hall of mirrors where you just like feel like you have fresh air again. You're like, oh my goodness, I was like entranced by something.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, honestly, because of this group, I've had that engraved in my brain, like seeking the highest good for the other. And the other day, I had to have like a pretty intense conversation with somebody, and that was my response, was I'm always seeking the highest good for you no matter what. And it was almost like they were taken aback by that response, because I feel like it's very rare for a human being to say that to another, where it's like very selfless, like there's no like, I don't know. And another thing that I feel helps to fight like that pride in me, recently I've been thinking about like the fruits of the Spirit, like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Like I genuinely, thank you Catholic school, that engraved in my brain. No, I literally the other day I was having a pretty tough night, and as I was like self-deprecating and just thinking about everything that wasn't going right and the expectation of myself, I was thinking like, am I being kind? Am I being joyful? Am I controlling my feelings? Like I was going through the list, and each one was no. And I was like, then this is not good judgment for me to be giving myself. And I mean, to put it hand in hand with thinking like, is God in the center of this conversation? No, he's not. Then I shouldn't be like digesting my own self-truths at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
I think go back to season 1. That's why we said it has to be vision up first. We have to recalibrate, getting that God back in view. Only then can we get a right vision in, and what is it to be a human person. And only then can we look out properly and go, oh, right, I see who and what and how you see, which ultimately will lead you back up, right? And that's the way. And but if we lose that, we're in trouble. Yeah. I think I was just writing down like how wonderful, like refreshing. I think that's kind of what I hope comes out of this, is like as we go into a new year, it can be so easy to be like, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And that can ultimately it just leads to feeling really terrible about ourselves or really competitive and like trying to edge other people out. And it can set the year off on a weird foot. And I was just loving that Pride was coming in January, going, wouldn't it be awesome to like set off the journey into a new year? And I just want to be humble this year, even in my declarations. Like, it's, if God wills it, like to the glory of God and according to his will, like I have a proper view that God is sovereign. He's the true north. He's the reference point. And so then I'm going to do my best. I know that in view of God, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I've been given incredible dignity and gifts and capacity and potential. I'm going to use those and I'm going to cultivate those and I'm going to bring my best with those, but I'm going to know that I'm broken. And there's a whole bunch, I'm not perfect. So I don't have any false illusions that I need to be as I go into 2020. I'm deeply loved. I'm incredibly given dignity and value as a creature made in the image of God. And I'm broken. I'm not perfect. So I don't need to pretend that I am. And then when I set off, I have two references: for God's glory and others' good. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately, that's what I want. I want God to be glorified and I want others' highest good. If I could stay in that space, then I stay off that little rabbit trail of the hall of mirrors and deception.
How do we balance that with, for glory to God and others' good? Then how do we also, I think there's healthy things to do for ourselves that I think in that lens you could twist it and be like, well, then I shouldn't do healthy things for myself. Going home instead of hanging out with friends is that's a selfish thing to do then. I need to just be doing everything for everybody else to some extent. So how do we balance that? Because I don't think what you're saying is to completely pour yourself out to your, grind yourself to the bone, serving others. So what's the balance of being humble and seeking others good, but then also not neglecting yourself to say.
I think this first starting point would be glory to God, right? And so what most glorifies God? God is most glorified when man is most fully alive, right? The glory of God is man fully alive. If our starting point is that, and I go, okay, well, God's glory is the first and highest. Well, that includes me being who he made me to be, which includes a rested, refreshed, joyful, cared for, healthy and whole being, right? The glory of God is man fully alive. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm twisting myself to put myself into the God place to meet everybody's needs and do good for the whole world, I've immediately missed that step one, which is the glory of God includes you flourishing. Mm-hmm. And it has to go there. Vision up has to go vision in, and then it goes vision out. So there is that beautiful flow. So that's where I would say is the glory of God includes man being fully alive. Yeah. And so if Katya is not fully alive, and then we go, well, what does that mean? Ice baths, massages, Bentleys, right? Box seats, that's the glory of God is man fully alive. That's not what he's talking about, right? He's
my Toyota 4Runner is not
on that list. Yeah. But nor is that weird self-deprecation that says I'm never gonna ever, right? Not have the car that I'm driving, or somehow if you're in a position to be able to be a blessing to people and still meet that need, you don't have to feel odd about that. That's one of those, that's what I love about Jesus is he's he doesn't give us this list, like St. Augustine, love God and do as you please, right? Love God and do as you please.
I mean, I feel that I like where you're going with that question, because another thing that I think is well, how as a young adult that we're very much building, I would think the foundation of the rest of our life, how can we create make moves, if you will, and be I don't know, go-getters without being prideful. And because I feel that's very common in society where people are I just started my own business and I make X amount and I do not to
no it's a valid
you're doing it for the greater
point.
glory.
Well,
but
that's the key. I think you answered your
you know
question.
what I mean? How can we balance that? Because I think there's something, I mean, everyone wants to be able to say they've done something, they've left something on this earth, but I don't know.
Yeah. I would love to just say that's, again, when we think about vocation, what am I called to? I want to do great things, right? I want to be, there's an impulse in us that wants to, whatever we do, eat or drink or whatever we do it to the glory of God. That's a very good God-given thing, right? What we have to be careful of is, to some he's given thousands, some he's given tens of thousands. We have to be very careful not to reference off of everybody else. We have to start asking the question like, hey, God, first, I love you, and my desire is that you would be glorified, and that my life would be an I love you back, right? You so loved me that my response back is I want my life to be worship. And so I want my work to be worship. I want my play to be worship. I want me to be fully alive in response to your love for me.
Yeah.
And then we can ask that second question, help me to understand my gifts. Help me to know who you've called me to be and what you've created me for. And start to ask that question. That's the discerning of vocation. He's the caller who calls us to these things. And he's going to call you to certain things, right? And put these dreams and desires, these delights for you to cultivate these gifts, right? And this is a beautiful conversation, because if I like the attention Jared's getting as his comedy career spins up, and I look over there and I go, well, I want some of that too. That's me looking to the field that he's been called to cultivate, and not focusing on the one that he's put in front of me. So I think, Jared, your catch is really good. Like, do what God's put in front of you, and make the desire to say, God, I want you to be most glorified in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then help me discern what gifts have you given me. I heard one of the authors that I interviewed for Lab, the podcast, said he's given us a place to be and a thing to do. I love that. It's so simple. A place to be and a thing to do. What's the place to be and thing to do that he's put in front of you? And then what are those delights, those joys that he's given you? And then seek to develop those to the best of your ability, and then leave the outcome to God, right? Like, I want you to be glorified in my life. So, I mean, we did the symphony project. Such a wonderful thing to get to participate in for the glory of God, right? And so amazing to pursue that, and to have a composer who is so excellent at his craft write and bring that kind of work together, right? Or to design a Toyota 4Runner, or to start a business, right? So those are not bad things. The desire to bring glory to God with who he's made you to be. So that's a lot in there, but I'd say starting with saying God exists, and he made me, and he loves me, and he's created me in his image to do good works, right? And sometimes we go, well, that's to like do charity. And it's like, no, to be fully human, to participate in his creation brings glory to God. And so to get really curious about that, and not say, I want to, this, that, and the other thing, but say, God, who have you made me to be? And I want to get serious about that. And I really want that to come to pass. And that's where Mother Teresa's prayer, like, deliver me from the desire to be preferred, deliver me from the desire to be exalted. Like, I just want to do your will.
Yeah.
That's really like, God, whatever your will is, whatever you made me to be, and the place to be and the thing to do that you've given me, I want to do that to the best of my ability for your glory. Help me discern that.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah. And let go of the outcomes and the comparison, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what's so hard,
Yeah.
right? He just,
Yeah. And God's got to stay in the center the whole time. Like, that's what I was thinking of. Like, because I feel like all of us, like, we're young. We want to have like a great like life and build a great family. And it's so we like, all right, how can we build a great like life, great business right now and get there quicker? And a lot of us will try to take that into our own hands. And it's like, keep God in the center and lean in when it gets hard. Like, I feel like a lot of times it's like, it's easy to be like, all right, keep God in the center, vision up, keep that. But then the moment it gets hard, it's like, I'm going to lean out. And then you start putting that worldly thing back in it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I want to ask a question though.
I was just going to say, like, with that, I feel like through my 20s, like, there was just so many waves, and they're like, you get better and better at like recognizing when you're like in kind of chaos. And someone Christelle Martin, one of my best friend's wife. Her Instagram bio. I'm a big Instagram bio today. This is the second one I'm referencing.
You notice it.
Yeah, I love them. I read them. They're important. Hers was, I've learned to kiss the wave that pushes me against the rock of ages. And I think like when life gets crazy, it can be very easy to go into the water or just really lean in and like trust that God, like his hand is through it. And like, I think that plays in so many, there's going to be so many times in life where you get thrown off instead of, you think you're just going to be safely on your board and everything's going to be fine. But more often than not, you're swimming, trying to stay above water and knowing that God is with you through those times and that he's going to come through in some way. And like, I mean, there's months that he didn't come through when I needed a job or that I thought I was going to get a promotion and I didn't. And it's like, can be very weird, but then like sometimes you get to see the goodness of it and then other times you don't. Like when I was 23 and felt like I was absolutely drowning, I remember my therapist said to me, he goes, because I was like, man, I feel like I'm just like failing. He goes, yeah, like most of the time, like this happens to people in like their 30s, you know, when they're like more established, like then they kind of like fall on their face a little bit and have an identity crisis. And he goes, you're having it at 23, which is, you know, you'll be ahead of the curve.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, I know, which is like, now, like I can look back and be like, man, that was such a good thing, but that wasn't good for years, you know?
Yeah.
And still sometimes I can like look back and be like, well, that's still, I mean, that was kind of rough, you know, God. But I think there's goodness of experience of learning to hold on to God, like in those circumstances where everything feels crazy.
Yeah, it makes me think of too, like I forget what it's called, but like when you're in the gym and you're on like that last rep, and it's like the hardest part, but that's like where you build the most like muscle and strength in that. It's like that's the same thing with God. Like like when it's really hard and you're just like, I do not want to keep God in the center anymore. It's like you're really gonna grow and like learn from that if you keep holding on. I mean, maybe even if you don't, you'll and it'll have a bad outcome, but if you hold on, like you're going to learn a lot and grow that strength there compared to like not doing that and then having to start all over again, you know?
Yeah. You grow the most muscle when you go to failure.
I heard one time that was like, when you're going through those hard moments, like God, I think you said this, it's a test or a temptation. And like, so it's like, you might feel like, oh, I didn't necessarily learn anything from that, but it was just God testing you and testing your, you know, faith. And you did it.
Well, you know,
I think you guys, first of all, it's so fun to sit around with you all and everybody participating in these, because it's really cool to hear the wisdom of going, oh yeah, providence. Yeah, providence. God is ahead of us. This wayfaring journey, it's not quick. It's long, slow, deep. It's over the long course of our life. And there's providence at work. We're looking to him. And the successful life is one that looks like him. It's not about a job or a title. Like those things are there. It's part of what we get to do. It's the fun of being who he's made us to be. But the real beautiful fruit of the human life is that we mature, right? That's Ephesians saying that you would be mature, that you would look like him. And going to failure is part of what produces it, and perseverance and character and hope. And this is, I think that's such a wise view of like, what do we want out of our 20s and our 30s? If the goal is to get really rich really fast and then get really retired early so we can go do awesome stuff and Instagram it, that's actually not reality. That's not what a human is made to be. A human is made to mature and look more and more like who they were made to be. This vision is Jesus. That's actually the sweetness of life. And as soon as we get that, we're like, oh, life's pretty great. Like I'm in it. I'm in it in my 20s. I'm in it in my 30s. I'm making these ascents. And we get that spell gets like taken off of us. And I think, again, it keeps us from falling into those traps of pride of like, oh, well, if the goal is these things, then I want to go first and get farther. And like, if that's the point. And I think that's the healthy pride, right? Paul boasted and was like, hey, I'm proud of you. You look a lot like him. There's a healthy pride. Like when you're doing the right thing, there's a right view of, hey, well done. And I think that's the long desire of the human, is to hear that, well done, good and faithful. So like, well done. You look like who I knew you to be. So make that your aim. And and then jobs will be around the way, vocations, houses, that stuff will come. Yeah, it's good.
It is so
great.
good.
I love the wayfaring journey.
Me
Ooh.
too.
Yeah.
And just
Hear,
like we
hear.
always say, it's never like we didn't just go through this and we've never gonna deal with pride again. It's like this is just like a step to like grow and know how to navigate pride and have a healthy view of pride. I feel like that's a common theme in the season and the journey for sure.
Speak for yourself. It's Salt
Yeah.
for me.
Salt done. Yeah, I'm proud of that.
Most humble
Proud of
guy
that.
here by a mile.
Yeah.
We made a point
Not.
to say that before we started recording. So
Yeah. Just
said it a
learning
lot
to
today,
notice,
actually.
learning it to notice it though too along the way of like, oh, that feels a lot like pride.
yeah,
Like I loved what you started with. That I'm starting to get aware, and that's maturity, right? In my younger years, I was unaware that I was just the most boastful person in the room, right, or the most proud person. And you start to become aware of like, oh, that's pride, and I stay away from that. The virtue is humility. Keep that right vision of God. It's good. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for starting 2025 together.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Come
love
on.
it.
Yeah, happy New Year's, guys.
Happy New Year.
New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got the Wayfarer hangout coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
January 10th,
That'll
January
be good.
10th.
Friday. Yeah.
Friday at 7.
I think I'll bring
Birthday.
another art piece and just set it there with a little pride.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
That'll be
Be
fun,
fun.
to see what you
Yeah.
pick.
Excited.
Come
Absolutely.
to see what it is.
There you go.
Boom. Well, thank you so much for hanging out. As always, leave likes, comments, DMs, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and can't wait until next time.
All
Love
right.
it.
Never alone.
Walk
Walk
on.
on.